Welcome to this journey where we dialogue with thought and heart leaders to share their reflections on human condition and how to improve them.
Today we have with us Dr. Anirban Bandyopadhyay, Dr. Subrata Ghosh and Dr. Pathik. Dr. Anirban is a senior scientist at National Institute of Material Sciences, Japan. He has developed resonance chain-based complete human brain model and is different from Turing tape-based model. His work involves experiments in DNA proteins, microtubules, neurons, and molecular machines. Dr. Subrata Ghosh worked in Harvard University and now works on Cancer and Alzheimer's in CSIR Lab in Jorhat-India as a senior scientist. He invented world's first artificial life form that is only 10 nanometers in size and holds multiple patents to his credit. Dr. Pathik works in NIMS, Japan as a scientist. He has developed organic jelly as artificial brain and has published several top-class peer-reviewed papers.
So, welcome Subrata, Pathik and Dr. Anirban to this journey and interesting times, COVID-19 and beyond our series is. I remember almost 22 years back, the first time I was walking down along with a few friends of mine to one of the Nukkad, the neighborhood, and I came across these small kiosks, the handheld kiosks, red colored, and I was wondering what this kiosk is really dispensing. And I went nearby and it was Chinese food. And I remember having the taste of it. And I think in the last almost a couple of decades, Chinese food has swamped the entire Indian culture, and a lot of people have, and it has an Indianized version also. Because we are on the subject of COVID-19 and the genesis of it is said to be the wet markets. I think if Pathik can weigh in on something that he's found interesting around it, or he can kickstart this conversation around it, it would be a great thing.
So in the last interview, what Anirban told why there will be the conflict in the human civilization with human and virus. So I'm not going to that part, but what I observed while I was staying in China for last 2 years, I had prepared some philosophy. I mean, what is the basic of your Chinese food philosophy? Then I prepared some grammar, and what I observed, basically you can say it's something like research work. So what I observed while preparing the food, Chinese people basically keep the taste original. So then based on the originality, they do some adventure. And based upon the adventure, they go into the next page of food romanticism. So let me describe this thing in very short. What is the food purity? I mean, when they are boiling some object I mean any animal or something. So then they are thinking that if you don't add some more spice, then it is the purity of the taste that they are maintaining. And then they will go to the next page, adventure. What is adventure? Oh, I ate crocodile yesterday. I ate some snake yesterday. But some animals are not available, like tiger, elephant. But most of the things are available there. And based upon the adventure, then they will go to the hierarchical food preparation. That is the final thing that I observed. Basically, the food romanticism. And I figured out there are 5 points about their food romanticism. So, number 1, this is the mythological food fantasy. Then number 2, morphological food fantasy. Number 3, medicinal food fantasy. Number 4, food fantasy for places. And number 5, food fantasy on history.
Can you repeat the 4th one, please, Pathik?
Food fantasy for place.
Places. Okay.
Places. So, in short, if I want to tell you what is the mythological food fantasy, obviously this is a very interesting term that I coined out. So they will bring out some mythological character, and then they will be thinking that I am eating some mythological character, and they will prepare the dish according to them. So if I take one example, Long Ho Do, this is one Chinese menu and broadly available in Guangzhou. So they will consider snake as a dragon, and then consider cat as tiger, and then they will chop it and boil it with some jujube, ginseng and some other things, and then they will prepare some dish, and they will be saying that tiger is fighting with dragon, and then they will put some lettuce or something so that they are feeding some lettuce to the tiger. and then they will be enjoying the dish. And this is, I call them the mythological food fantasy. Number two, morphological food fantasy. So if they find some similarity in the morphology, they will put together and boil and eat. So the preparation of soup is somewhat similar. They will put some kinds of jujube, sometimes some coconut, sometimes ginseng. But so in the case of morphological food fantasy, they will take, I observed few things. I'm just taking one example. They'll take the pig brain, and the morphology is exactly similar with the walnut. So walnut and pig brain, they will put together and boil with some other things, and they will be thinking that as these have the same morphology, so we'll be enjoying. So number three, medicinal food fantasy. They are not only taking, nowadays we are talking, I mean, a lot about the traditional Chinese medicine. I don't want to go all in detail. So I can give you some examples so that people will have some good idea of what is the traditional Chinese medicine. So suppose I want to be a singer, then my voice is not permitting. I am not a good singer. So I should hunt one kakubar, and then I should prepare roast and I should eat it. If I continue it, they believe they can sing well. One recipe. Another recipe, in short, they will capture some buzzing insect. They will fry it oil, and then they will put some honey and make some paste. This paste, they will add it in some jasmine tea, and they will drink. If you drink it continuously, your voice will be enhanced. I mean, good voice.
So basically what you're saying is, the properties or the features of the animal that a person wants to acquire, they try and create a recipe around it.
Exactly. And they are thinking that it might have something. I mean, there is no logic, but what I think, always the fantasy is there in preparing this Chinese medicine. And mostly, I should not say herbs are not working, but these are the things, obviously it will not work. And food fantasy for the place, the fourth point. So suppose you are eating somewhere in a metro city like Beijing, Guangzhou, Shanghai, or Shanghai, or Wuhan. But while eating, you want to feel that I am traveling near to ocean where river meets. So in that junction area, they will find out what are the creatures available. They will chop crocodile, they will chop coconut white pulp, soft white pulp, and boil it inside this coconut water. So then you'll be thinking that in sitting in Guangzhou, you'll be feeling that yes, I'm walking somewhere in this junction zone. So this is, I call food fantasy for places. And the final one, so the food fantasy from history. Suppose some king few years, 100 years ago, they have the dish and they got it. I mean, they knew this. Then they will be thinking that while eating, obviously I'm feeling like king or something. So this is the historical food fantasy. I just pointed out the 5 things from, so hierarchy is going on. First, they will be taking the food purity. So based on the purity, they will do some adventure. And then the final and the last stage is the food fantasy.
It is fascinating, Pathik, the way you've laid out. It's completely fresh. The whole idea is, how did you think about this? What was the thinking process behind this? How did you come at this?
Actually, I did a postdoc in Guangzhou for 2 years. So in 2015 and 17, and I was going to lots of restaurants with them, and I was trying to discover what is the philosophy that when they are preparing food, what could be the philosophy. Then I was asking them many things, how you are preparing this recipe, how you are preparing this recipe. Then I finally concluded that obviously there must have some grammar. So I figured out this must be the grammar behind this. But while eating, they don't maintain any grammar. In Indian system, whether it is classical music or Indian food, we have the sequence. So we'll first take some fry, then bitter gourd, then at last non-veg, if or paneer, at last we'll take some dessert. So we'll maintain the sequence. But Chinese food is somewhat amazing. So they will take 3 kinds of soup. I mean, one rice one, number 2 is your sham soup, chicken or whatever soup, and number 3 is rice and some tea, jasmine tea. So while eating, they will be drinking this kind of thing along with anything, any vegetable, anything. They have absolutely no sequence. So they don't maintain any sequence, but they will do adventure in this grammar, maintaining this grammar.
Yeah. So before I go to Subrata and Anirban to weigh in on this, I just want to have one more curiosity answered from you. You know, when humans interact with the environment and they create these kind of interactions, some of them become bugs and some of them become features in our daily living. So what part of your discovery you think that, you know, when we are being adventurous on these five things, are becoming bugs in our existence and not a feature?
I can say this that basically what I discovered this after just by interacting with them, and this is the grammar you will be not getting anywhere, and this is the philosophy that I developed, and I think after reading so many dishes and I observing so many dishes, I think this must be the philosophy behind them. So basically, you can say this is my view.
Fair enough. Anirbandha, Subrata, you want to weigh in on that?
Brother?
Yeah, first of all, I am really just fascinated about the research Pathik has done on Chinese food because I never thought that some people travel China and they, many aspect, many purpose they travel for education, for research, for maybe learning Chinese language also. But to understand the grammar of the Chinese food could be a completely new thought and new dimension of our, this flavor of this interview. I think that is really good. So I was in Japan for a couple of years during my postdoc time. I heard and I also observed and I tasted also some Japanese food. So they like to taste some foods cooked, well cooked, some half baked cooked, and some raw. So I had a chance to interact one of my Chinese colleague in this time who newly married that time. So he invited to his home, but somehow I missed that opportunity. I could not discover their food styling or any other things. But one day in the lab, when I was discussing, I saw that he bought a bowl of something fried. I don't know the thing. So we just in a meeting that what is that? So he discussed and he tell about it, that what is the preparation and how they get it. So that was the month of September. So that time, if you go to Japan, you will find a lot of insects. Every plant, they are making whistles. What we call maybe
Cricket.
cricket. So I never thought that any human being would be interested to taste them. But it is the surprise to me that Chinese also interested to taste that. Maybe Pathik was discussing about this singing style. If they eat kaku bird and they can sing well, maybe it is their mythological thinking that if they catch that insect and eat them, then maybe their voice could be more sharp.
Exactly.
So,
So I look at the composition. They will take that insect and then put some honey.
yeah,
So that your voice will be as sweet as like honey.
yeah.
Then they will add some jasmine tea.
Okay.
So, and then you have to drink it. And I don't know, maybe after one month or 2 months, you will be becoming a good singer, I think.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did not had that opportunity to continue that. One day we got a chance to taste that fried insect. Maybe Anirban can also remember at that time how he was dissecting every part of that insect and tasting it with different means interest and adventure.
So basically, the insect was horrible. That insect, if you look at it, it's terrible. It has so many legs and something, and it sounds so bad, so disturbing to your mental peace. That when it makes that sound, we feel very, very bad here in Japan, and all of them starts making sound. So I asked, so that night actually Subrata called me and then told that would you like to test this? And then I asked that where did you get this? He said in front of his house, actually in the tree, those insects were there. He literally went up and caught those insects, these big giant sighting insects, and fried in the oil. So this Chinese friend of ours was actually very very worried that we will be able to eat it or not. And then what I did is I took it, and then all of them, he suggested the way Chinese people eat it is you take the big insect and put it in your mouth, and then you just crack it. So it looks really horrible. So what you can do is close your eyes and put it inside your mouth, and then you just crack it. So I thought that why not give it a try? So I took it in my hand, and I took one leg, part of its body one by one, and started eating. And then people around us were so disturbed, and even this Chinese guy who cooked it, he was so upset. He said, "We never eat like that. You know, now I cannot eat." So even a Chinese had a big problem when with my food, I mean, with my style of taking, each and every legs and part of the body one by one. So this was very well fried. Actually, when we come to COVID-19, I think we go to a particular domain of food habit where it is raw. Because if it is boiled, then COVID-19 will be cooked. It's a protein structure. And if it is cooked, then whatever we are eating, it should not get a chance to go inside our body and get evolved.
Yeah.
The evolution pathway by which different kind of the coronavirus spike, and then our human ACE2 receptor, when it attaches with the cell, that is that matches with each other. So that is possible. It can practice many times. The virus can practice many times. Only if it gets raw, it gets directly. We should not cook it. So we have to enter into the domain of Chinese food habit where it is raw, absolutely raw or half cooked, where the virus must survive in a very dormant condition or in an active form. So that is one aspect of our discussion today, because from food we can enter into raw food, and then where the virus gets the opportunity to get evolved.
So do you see, Anirban, and this question is for it's open also, but more directed to Anirban. Now that we've come across this and we have this biggest, one of the biggest challenges in human history, do you foresee that there would be now a sort of inquiry and research around what food to be allowed and not, in terms of even, I was reading an article a couple of days back by a reporter called Rachel, and she was mentioning that China is considering exotic wildlife to be banned in food pallets. So
already today there is a news that dog and cats are banned in China, in some parts of China. So definitely those things would come. But I think that COVID-19 challenge that we have in front of us, and that's a very serious challenge, because of the reason that COVID-19 is actually creating some problem where we can say that it's a normal pneumonia, but since total number of people who require ventilation or hospitalization is much more than the allowed seats in any country, that's why death rates are increasing. So disease-wise, coronavirus is not offering anything new than very severe pneumonia.
Yeah, and
in case of pneumonia, in case of you have severe pneumonia, you need to put a pipe through your mouth, and then it should go inside your lungs, and that is called ventilator, and you need to pump continuously oxygen until, and with a pipe, you need to also take out the flame that is being generated continuously inside your lungs. So these are the two processes continuously goes on, and then your pressure goes down if as soon as the flame stores inside your lungs. So what happens is, when these things happen, your pressure goes down and your pulse comes down from 75 or 80 to very low, to 52, and the fever is high. So doctor has to fight, or a nurse or permanent attendant is required for one person. 2-3 attendants are required. So one person would continuously take out the flame. So within 1.5 hours or 2 hours, your flame, a lot of flame has to be taken out of your lungs, and then doctor has to maintain your pressure and then continuously pump more and more oxygen. So normally 22% oxygen is in our ear, and then when you send to ventilation, 50% of the oxygen, but it can go up to as high as 85% to 90% oxygen, pure oxygen. If it is given to a normal person, he will die immediately. But a severe respiratory syndrome, a person with a severe respiratory syndrome, that oxygen supply would go much. And then not only that, you need to give plasma treatment. That is, the person who has survived pneumonia, they have some antibodies, and then from those blood, they convert it into plasma, and it needs to be fed. It needs to be supplied to the person's blood. And then of course, a lot of antiviral things would come. And then when you give lots of antiviral things to the body, then what happens? Body reacts, and then you can get meningitis. So there was one death in Rajasthan with meningitis because too much drug were applied, and then you get meningitis, and then you get kidney problem, you get other organ failures. So all these things start happening simultaneously. So they call it comorbid situations or multi-organ failures. You move towards multi-organ failures. So this requires a couple of people, couple of health attendant continuously monitoring one person. So it is not something impossible to be cured, but those 5% people, if 100% people get COVID, of course 80% people there will be no problem, no effect. I mean, 15% people will get little effect, and then they need fever treatment and something else. 5% people need hospitalization and ventilation. No country in the world have sufficient infrastructure to provide ventilator support and then continuous monitoring support to these 5% people, and that is the problem. In Italy, currently the situation is so pathetic that if you want to consult to a doctor, you cannot go to a doctor, because you know how many doctors are getting infected all over the world. Remember, one doctor getting infected, that means at least hundreds of patients are going to suffer. So one doctor, maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands of patients are going to suffer. So that is a very dangerous calling situation. So to survive from this, Italy has come up with a very nice idea. So what they have done is they have put, you have to make a call to your family doctor, tell your symptoms, and then if he is satisfied, then you have to convince the doctor. The doctor will then, special COVID doctor or the SARS coronavirus doctors are there, and he will recommend them, and then you have to go to him and then convince him over phone, because if you go there the doctor is inactive. So this is also now currently happening in India also. The doctors are getting infected. So doctors are getting infection. It's a huge. So you have to convince them the next level of doctor, and then they will go for test. And then even after test, they will prescribe you some medicine. You go to the medicine shop, you get the medicine, and you remain over there. You remain in home. You don't see any doctor. Doctor is not seeing you. Finally, when you are breathing trouble, you are in the last stage, then you can tell the COVID doctor that you have happened, this thing has happened, and then that doctor will recommend ambulance. Ambulance will come pick you up to the hospital, and then your real treatment will begin. This is the situation it is going to be the situation every single society of the world. So a lot of people get infected.
So it's beautiful, we started off with food, the mythology, the morphology, the medicine, the history, the place, and then we looked at the wet markets, and then we looked at how there is a possible, relook at the use of food and culture in different geographies. And it was wonderful to see you lifting the conversation from the stomach to the lungs, and then describing the whole process of the ventilator and the way the phlegm is taken out. And then you traverse the idea of how a country like Italy, which is severely right now under the grasp of this disease, how they're using different measures in order to reduce the contact and hence preserving the healthcare professionals to be able to overcome this particular thing. Wonderful. One of the key questions that is coming up is around mutation of this virus. How have you guys been looking at the aspect of mutation currently under the pandemic? And then people are even worried that it might subside and then come back with a second wave. So how do you guys weigh in on this?
I think Subrata can talk about it.
So telling about that this COV2 or COVID-19, whatever you said, is little bit modified in two ways. One way is that it's genetic part. Another way is that their key functioning, that is the protein which bind to the cell receptor. So current research, they are describing it like that earlier SARS-1 was little bit more loosely bound to the receptor. The strength of actively binding to the cell receptor was little bit weaker compared to this new one. So new one, they are calling it as a sticky, means you have a glue, and if you have a better glue, you can stick better way. That is your point. Binding effect is much more effective. So that's way earlier the flu virus or COV1 generation virus, those are not so much, effective to make this pandemic. Those were more regional because the spreading pattern was different. But here, the spreading pattern is human to human. Another thing is that when it is infecting to the human body, the upper respiratory tract cell lines, they are binding to the cell lines in a better way. So they are invading the cell immediately when they affect, and that helping the virus to replicate it in a better way, because maybe they are genetically modified also. So you can see that when generally we are suggested that if you drink a lot of some hot water, tea, coffee, it will recover your COVID infection. But actually you see, even if you are not infecting yourself, but when you drink and you wash your upper respiratory tract and you get down the virus in your stomach, that is also not dying when it is traveling through your this rectum and all those stomach and all areas, because there are so many digestive enzyme working actively, but still that virus is ineffective, not affected by those so many stringent conditions.
Interesting. And how do you think is this going to pan out? Because there are two further questions around it. One is that the virus is mutating in a manner where different geographies you're finding different versions of it. And then there is another question of the second wave coming, even if it subsides after the first wave, which is still an ongoing wave right now, excepting in China, let's say, or some other country. What are the possibilities of the second wave being even lethal than the first wave? Anirban, do you want to weigh in on what we were discussing?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, that regarding the argument that the virus is binding much more easily. So basically, coronavirus is a sphere, and with spikes, a lot of spikes, and those spikes are actually they bind with human cell. Human cell also have receptor, they bind with it. And how does it look like? It looks like just like a Y and this. So just like this. And this is one side view. I was checking the structure and I will send you the video. Please share it. So it's like 4. Okay. So there are 4 like this. And if one animal, say you are in bat, then human cell binds here. In say monkey binds here. In say in civet cat binds over here. But now coronavirus is binding almost here. So you can come that 4 of them can exchange energy with the receptor. Okay. So earlier view, most of the papers that are being published in the last couple of days in Nature and Science, I was looking at them. They were just looking 2D view like this. But in our lab, in the last few days, we observed this 4 anchors and 1 with here. That's already a very dangerous situation. So I don't see it has almost perfected its bonding. So this, the reason I wanted to come to this interview when you suggested was to share this discovery with the people of the world as fast as possible. If they are listening to us, if the researchers or scientists are listening to us, just rotate. You can download freely the structures from the Nature papers or PDB website, and then you just open it in free softwares, BMD for visualization, molecular dynamics, or you can PyMol. There are many softwares are there. Just rotate it, and you will see that as soon as you go to bat coronavirus, all kind of coronavirus for different animals are present now. You will find when SARS-CoV-2, it's nearly in the middle. So you will look at it. For others, it's just like one side, or here, or here, or here. Here now, whatever the direction. So this is kind of the structural bonding perfection that Subrata was talking about.
And does this mean that it's not only lethal because it's improvisation on degree of bonding, but also the intensity or the stickiness of it?
Exactly. So there are multiple things are working here. And it was perfecting. If you see in the last 10 years of research of COVID virus, then you will see that it was improving, but it was coming to two of them, the junctions he was trying. Now nearly middle. Okay. So the second point that you were talking about, the second wave. One thing that that in SARS virus, when they try to put some binder, some block, and then the receptor, that failed because you can't block all the cells or major cells of ACE2 receptor with ACE2 receptors in your body. I think Pathik can comment on this particular aspect because he has been looking into the structures and all this research work very intensely. So I will hand it over to him regarding the comment on second wave. Pathik, would you like to weigh in this particular thing?
So what I observed, the coronavirus with the spike, they have the receptor that we call the receptor binding domain, which generally called H1. So in that S1 part, basically we have the 6 amino acids, and they are very dynamic in nature. So that's why they often change their architecture, and they can go and somewhere bind. So where they can bind, mainly in our human system, we have the ACE2 receptor only in the lungs, small intestine, liver, and in kidney. So if you see the organ failures, only these organs will be failed, and sometimes you'll be seeing the additional effect of heart. So if the people is very weak and they cannot breathe, obviously the heart failure is the ultimate thing that he can face. So these kind of all the organs basically will be affected, and if the person has already this kind of problem, we suffer worst. So the receptor we are talking about finally, so in the COVID virus, I mean not the COVID-2 virus, earlier version, they were trying with some blocking agent. So if you have the virus, then you have to block it so that we will be safe. So in that time, they have used, Chinese people, they have told that they were using some tea, and they have, in our recent paper, computational study show that tea alkaloid can block somewhat, but this time, when it is COVID-2 or 19 version, we cannot block this. That is the main problem, because of it is highly dynamic in nature. So people are now trying to get something blocker to the sides, but the main problem is that furin we cannot block and open. I got few paper where if you want to block some system with to the furin, it will be dangerous. So basically you cannot use, and earlier people were using ML188.
Why is it dangerous, Pathik? Why is dangerous?
Dangerous means you will have the side effect, but it cannot bind at all because it's dynamic nature. So for that purpose, people often administrate some more drug, and that is not, I mean, good for health. And few people, they are using some ML188 blocker, but that also is not working in this version, that COVID-2 version. So that's why now we are trying to see which alkaloid or whatever the material can block that dynamic site, because this is the main challenge. If we want to prepare some molecule that will block the site, so we need to check some molecular dynamics, and presently we are thinking to do as well. So maybe Subrata will take over that part of synthesis part, so that he can do this kind of blocking reagent. But we have listed out few blockers as well. But until we are getting some final result how it blocks, we cannot start our synthesis. Obviously, it will take some time.
Yeah, here I would like to add a few more points, that as Pathik was already telling about this particular protein, or maybe it is called gene also, that is ACE2. So ACE2 blocking is necessary for tackling with the virus, because the virus is getting the door to the entrance is that particular gene. Now difficulty is there because this gene is responsible for many other functions also. Those are very vital functions, like renal function, like cardiovascular function. So just using a drug, discovering something, you cannot close the door. Yes. You have to keep the door open, but you have to make a filter for your virus not to give the entrance. So that's the problem. And that's why I was checking in the history of drug discovery of antiviral drugs. Every discovery, every emphasis given only to find out a suitable molecule which will act inside the cell when it is already virus is there and is trying to replicate it. Then only they get activated, and they try to stop the replicating process by not allowing the genetic function of that RNA or DNA from the virus to be multiplied. So that's the issue here. Now we have to get a new domain of research, how we can protect our ACE2 receptor not to bind with the virus, but it should continue its other functions normally. So that's the major issue.
Yeah. So I would just like to add to one particular point. That is, he has very, very nicely put it that just building a channel blocker, or actually the door by which the virus sends the nucleic acid inside the code and sends it to the ribosome and tells ribosome, produce more and more, I am your friend. The ribosome of your cell says, okay, I've got it. He produces the proteins for the virus. But the point is, if you look at the history of drug discovery, as Subrata has rightly pointed out, you will find that the easy way that a drug discoverer do is they invent a channel blocker. And then, because that's the fastest way. If you are entering through that door, if you are entering to this door, I block that door, and then something. Of course, there are other channels also in the cell, so by which living activities go on. But but those are the key things by which transmission happens, cell-to-cell communications happen. So now the research could be, if somehow you make a blocker that if the nucleic acid goes, another drug which enters through ACE2 interacts with the nucleic acid, if there are particular features are there, and then it changes it so that when it goes to the ribosome says, no, you are not mine. You have come from somebody else. I will not produce your proteins. So ribosome, we have to give the ability of our cell ribosome, the ability so that it can tell that, look, nucleic acid, I'm not going to cooperate with you under any circumstances. So get lost. So that's why Subrata has argued, Subrata has said the statement that we have to get into new domain of research, new ideas to block it. And then why for COVID-19 it is so essential, because COVID-19 has nearly perfected the way to get in. So that's the idea. Of course, the biggest threat for the world is not, I repeat, is not just the pneumonia. It's the thing that when it spreads very fast, 5% people, you do not have the infrastructure. You can never have the infrastructure to sufficiently support. 5% means, can you imagine? 10 crore or 12 crore people from India will go, 1 crore people or 1.2 crore people in Japan, and most of the countries, crores of people in the hospital. It's possible? It's impossible. So those people who are arguing that COVID-19 is because we are not prepared. Come on, you can never get prepared to that level. You can never prepare to that level. So we have to come up with a completely new kind of ideas and change our health, change our hygiene, change those fundamental aspects to fight with it. It is never going to happen that you are going to build thousands and thousands of hospitals and then make the arrangement. As I said, if you go to severe respiratory syndrome, then you need 3 to 4 people to monitor you continuously. Come on. So if you have 1 crore people, say it's a 20 crore country, 20 crore population, and then 1 crore people is in the hospital. So will you put 3 crore more staffs to cure for us? I mean, come on, do simple math. And then you will understand that that's not going to work. Building infrastructure is not going to work. You need something totally different. Of course, having a kind of vaccine is definitely important, and you can't stop its evolution. And I fear, what my biggest panic, what I foresee, that maybe some other dangerous viruses are also perfecting when we are talking and giving this interview.
In fact, that was my next question, that that this virus has reached at such a stage of perfection. This virus itself, or its mutated form, or any other virus, would also be working in this, I mean,
in the same direction,
because they're also in their evolutionary journey.
Exactly.
They want to get into the future and
exactly
through us. So
yeah, there could be many dangerous viruses who are out there, and then adopting the same methodology as SARS have adopted to spread very rapidly. So one thing we learned, humanity has learned, that to do a great job, to conquer the whole world, you just need to be very communicative.
So, in fact, this brings to an interesting, and actually my question is, have we learned it? And that's the big question, because as of now, we are still in the middle of the situation. We don't know how much time will it take. We don't know the medical crisis, when will it subside. We also don't know how the economic crisis will pan out of this. But the big question is, as humanity, do you feel strongly that we will have learned our lessons, and rather than paying our EMIs and rushing for our to-do list, we'll start getting more towards our hygiene, our wellness, and building our immunity system, while we are also strengthening the healthcare system?
Yeah. I think we can start from Subrata, then Pathik, and then finally I will comment.
So, yeah, it's a good question, but what I will say on this question, this is a high time. This is a high time, even if we haven't started, we have learned, that comes later, but at least this is the highest opportunity. This time we have a knowledge how nature can give a lesson if you don't follow the rules of nature. So you should be prepared yourself, you should be preparing yourself onwards for not to get into this situation. For that, some ideas I can share. First of all, we are more emphasizing on healthcare, but now you see, globally you see no healthcare system is actually functioning to single battle to get the victory. So I think now onwards we have to more emphasize on education, because education only thing which get you in the same boat. Now we are really diverse. In the beginning, you see, in the Indian scenario, and even I'm talking about Indian scenario, because outside of India also the same culture was practicing by the people, that, oh, it's a simple virus, flu virus. Many times I have seen this in my life. No problem. Just let it go. It will not affect me. I am protected. Now that person is now in the hospital and putting 2 pipes in his lungs to get the so that's why now all people in the same boat, irrespective of their political, irrespective of their mental, irrespective of their socio-cultural difference, they are in the same line now. Now we have to follow some hygiene. We have to protect ourselves so that the enemy cannot enter too. So this can be very easily done in future, to including certain particular course in the school, that every single child who are going to the school for their primary education, from the very beginning of their education, they don't need to learn mathematics, they need to learn language, but they need to learn how to maintain hygiene of yourself. This is one thing I can tell you, that more schooling system as well as better hygiene system should be propagated in the society by through children, because the adult, you know, they are very arrogant. Now second thing is that we so far was very much dependent on different antibiotics, but from now on we have to rethink about it, because antibiotic actually destroying our own immune system. So you have to think about it. Until you are not at the age, you should not use antibiotic to cure yourself from any disease.
Are you hinting at the probiotic system that is there inside? It gets completely shunted by the antibiotic.
Probiotic is actually under research area also, because it is not established properly, because probiotic is directly related to good bacteria in human guts, and nobody yet could find out properly in a language manner that this is the language of bacteria and you should use this
Follow this.
language for tackle this, you should use this language to communicate with this. So that is not established yet, but it is good, but because we know already that in certain country we used to use certain foods which are really probiotic, and those probiotic actually helping us for many aspects of our health benefit. So that should be continued, but research should be continued also, so that we can specifically spell out every single letter of that language, that this letter is responsible for this letter is responsible for this. This way we can make a grammar of the whole system, and then probiotic would be definitely a very good helpful idea to make our health in a better way. So that is important. I'm talking about especially not using antibiotic in a just reckless way. You should be confined, you should be, make your mind to not use much antibiotic as it is not required. Another, I am thinking about that if this virus because this, almost 100 years later, one stage comes when world is facing this epidemic. Maybe it is regional, maybe it is global. So that is actually should be our information. That should be our lesson. That maybe in 100 years, or maybe in 40 years, maybe in 10 years, another infection is going to come up. But we could not prepare ourselves until we don't understand why they are actually coming back and back and back in different form. So for that, I think some regular practice like virus, as we have already learned from this COVID-19, we are practicing hand wash, because every time you wash your hand, it is actually helping the surfactant to break your virus capsid, because that is a particular material which is a lipid. So lipid always interact with surfactant and it dissolve. So that way you are allowing the virus to break down, and the genetic material should be exposed to the nature, and thermally or other way it should be destroyed eventually. So that's why if you prepare certain measures like some gargling agent or something we can create artificially, and for any purpose, irrespective of the variety of their name or different activities, any virus is prepared by their cover, that is the lipid layer. So we have to target them, and some liquid gargling agent to some medicine should be in our hand, prepared beforehand, that during this situation, during this season, we all will practice that. And every time, because there is a possibility and there is an opportunity for us that when a virus is infecting us, it will take 3 to 4 days to just entering into the cell. So before that time, if you can kill them outside, then you can wash it out and the genetic material will come out. So it has a better opportunity to destroy the virus, not to allow inside the any cell, human, animal, any cell, but it will go into the nature and it will be destroyed. So that's why in different stage or different level, we can make some certain ideas to just going through social practice.
Yeah, what I heard you say is a three-pronged strategy. One is the prevention part of it. The other is if something comes up, then there should be an emergency response to it. And the third is the area of research where we can, look at different ways in terms of coming up with vaccines and understanding these viruses from an interdisciplinary manner, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay. Pathik, you want to weigh in on the question?
So I want to add something, because Subrata told nicely regarding the scientific aspects, but the situation is always unknown to us. I mean, we are always facing some new challenges. We have sorted out, for example, cholera, plague, many things.
Polio.
So next time, again, if some unknown will come, how to face it? Because when scientists will come up with some solution, it will take maybe few months to few years. So in the meantime, if it is like very infectious, our world will be again facing this kind of problem. So what I think, again, we should think about rethink our policy, old policy, that is the prevention is better than cure. Sometimes for the curing purpose, it will take some time. So in that respect, we have to always be very precautious about our hygiene and all. That Subrata nicely explained. But what I think we should, this time, what mistake we have already done, we should isolate the infected people immediately. If you think that it is infectious, just we have to isolate at any cost, so that the rest of the globe will not suffer at all. And number two, always in the system, some people will create some problem. That is universal in nature. So the people, whoever is becoming the real threat to the system, we should point it out and we should remove from the system, maybe in jail or somewhere, because otherwise we cannot control the huge population present in India or any other countries are facing. So we have to just isolate those people who are trying to, and obviously Subrata nicely pointed out, we need the education, because hygienic sense will only come from the educational system. So these are the things we have to always think about it. We have to implement in our social life. But apart from it, obviously as scientists, we have the responsibility to prepare some vaccine or drug as early as possible, but it takes time. But before that, we have to have this kind of precaution so that it will not spread somewhere. And presently, I think we could have, stop this thing much before if we would have, conscious about this.
Thank you. Thank you. Anirban, your
Yeah,
word?
so I have a couple of things to say. The first thing is, how did Japan manage to do so well? And one thing is, if you travel around Japan during December, January, February, March, this time when COVID virus has actually propagated, most of the Japanese in the train and everywhere you will find with mask. I think that worked like a magic, because when you sneeze or the aerosols come out, the big droplet, they drop within 3 feet. But as I said earlier, it can, if the smaller droplets are there, they will float in the wind and then can go up to 8 to 10 meters. And they can survive in that condition for 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. So basically, 10 meters around you is actually the area where you can infect the whole thing. So if you want to survive, you can wear a mask, and then mask, because it is a cloth, it's a cloth. So what will happen, aerosols will stick to that and then get absorbed, remain there. And if you wash it out, your mask with some alcohol or some other materials, then you are kind of safe. As Subrata has very nicely said that we have to start the education for a nice habit. And but I would like to say that I did receive a very nice email from NIMS, and then they said that look, we have a new protocol that this side room only that many people are allowed. So they calculated the whole area with a square meter. I like that idea very much. So I did a calculation. So what I did, when Subrata and Pathik was talking, I was doing the calculation in my hand on this paper. I can show you. So what I did is, suppose we have a 3 or 5 square meter, 3 to 5 meters, not 10. Okay, let us make a very conservative estimate. So if we have a 3 into 3, 9, so pi r square is the total area I need. And I just multiplied with the total number of population in the world, that if we try to do this, what will happen? And then you will surely end up more than the space that is available. So we need another plan. So basically, if you really want to do a healthy isolation, they are calling it social isolation. You will find that if you take the true value 10 square into pi, that are actually experimentally derived value, then you are in trouble, because you need a couple of more planets to fit in.
You're accounting for the verticalization also, is it?
Verticalization also. Anyway, so yeah, vertical could be one way, many years. And another thing is that, so if you wear mask, actually the results get affected. So the habit of is okay, but under any circumstances, when you can't live like that, you will not be touching other people. It's fantastic, but you will be touching the surface, and that surface, after 3 hours, somebody else can come and touch it. So in a very closely living society, hygiene, how much hygiene protocols would help, I doubt, because when this virus is evolving and then it has been mastering and it will be mastering in the coming days much more profoundly. I'm pretty sure this is just the beginning. So new viruses will come with and then more, I think it's a simple idea, simple idea. A simple idea is equal to mc squared. There was nothing in it. Left side in the Einstein's equation, you had mass, and right side you had area. Area can never be equal to mass. And then when Einstein did it with E is equal to mc square, cute little thing, and then you got nuclear bomb. So it's a cute little thing that the virus has said that I will talk to everybody. I will interact with everybody. I'm mastering that. Too much love. And then whole thing is finished. So it's a totally new radical idea that that the virus has come up, and you need a radical idea. If area wise you can't, if you try to isolate people, how do you do it? Because 80% of the people will never have any symptom, but 20% it will select. So virus comes in the first wave. Out of 100, it removes 20, okay, or removes 5. Next time it will come, remove another 5, and if it speeds up, it's coming back. Then,
yeah,
5%, 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%. Just go on.
Yeah.
You will see that 5% gone, and then in 95% again 5% gone, and then 5% gone. So you will very soon you will find that you are left with nearly 50% of the whole population. So the point that I want to make is that whatever the solution you try to find at this particular moment of time, we find that we have to be very clever. Like as Subrata has very nicely argued in the beginning, that we have to get insight and then talk to ribosome about it.
Yeah.
Or we have to invent a new kind of antiviral therapy. So Subrata invented some organic system that is a lifelike system, 10 nanometer size, and it has motors, it has living systems. So we have to create a carrier that is particularly designed for particular kind of viruses, and then we can spread them in the air to directly attack. And then the battle should be fought not by defense. So I totally disagree with the kind of fight that world scientific community is going. Defense is done. You are done with the defense. You have to take a preemptive measure and go and attack the virus with antiviral molecular structures, maybe molecular machines and other kind of architectures. So I think in that sense, Subrata's group, what they are doing in CSIR Lab there in India is fantastic. And then they are trying to come up with an intelligent system, and Pathik is also working on similar kind of intelligent, super intelligent systems here, which will be nano-sized, which we can program, and we have to take the battle directly to the virus. Because if you allow virus to practice every time by targeting humans, you can't stop. Definitely China can stop eating food, but it will figure out some other ways. It will figure out some other ways.
Actually, you're raising two very interesting philosophical and also practical strategies. One is taking the battle to the virus rather than waiting for it to attack. So that's one.
Yes.
And second, do you also foresee, may sound a little fiction kind of thing right now, but suppose somebody were to create this kind of nano carrier, which is an antiviral carrier. Can we foresee a day where you don't need a vaccination shots, but then much like people transmitting viruses to each other, they transmit this antivirus to each other because somebody's been infected with it?
Yeah. So 18th century, Jonas Salk, when he created the vaccine, it was a revolution. It was a revolution. It saved humanity from the Great Plague attack in Europe, when 1/3 of the population were wiped out. You remember what happened to Europe, those dark days.
Black that you say?
Yes. That black. And then you know how wine got discovered or beer got discovered because all the water were poisonous. People feared to take clean water. There was no clean water. And then those which are rotten by by straw or other things or food, that those things had alcohol, and then virus or other kind of germs couldn't survive in that. So at that point of time, compared to water, those alcohols were safer to drink. So that was the reason for the discovery of this new kind of alcohol. And then the virus, the vaccine, and then all those things came. I think now we need the time. The time has come for antiviral nanomachines, which Pathik is much better to put it, and Subrata is much better to put it. But the era of nanomachines are coming, and we hold the patent, and then we are the first group in the world in 2014 to build the nanomachine, and then intelligence. How can we add serious intelligence into this nanomachine or nanobots? We have been working. Pathik is also trying to build up these super intelligent systems at the nanoscale. So basically, we can save the mankind for the next 300 years. So imagine the era of vaccine will soon disappear. So all over the world, when the scientists are shouting for vaccine, I think that that is not going to go for long. Era of vaccine has to go era of nanomachines, directly attacking and taking the battle directly to the virus is coming, must come. Maybe after 300 years, you can talk about Dr. Subrata Ghosh or Dr. Pathik Sahu about it, that they try to build up the new kind of machines of the future.
So Pathik and Subrata, can you weigh in on this particular thing? Do you foresee a day, and I'm still imagining it right now, do you foresee a day where you develop these kind of antiviral nanobots or nanocells or carriers, and they transmit much like the virus gets transmitted today? It's through human to human contact. Do you foresee that day?
I think the real problem in that nanomachine kind of thing, like virus, it can produce by itself. It can produce, but nanomachine has the limitation. We cannot grow it. So the transmission from one body to another body, like viral transmission. So it is not at this point of possible, I think. But we are trying to put some binder over the nanomachine so that it can go and it can do its duty. Basically, this nano machine, actually Subrata is working, and he's trying to put some ligand on the surface of this nanomachine, so it can be selective. It can selectively bind the target. And presently, actually, he's taking this kind of thing. And actually, I am working with the intelligence system. How we can consider that these are the real threat, or how we can bind this kind of system. We are trying to solve it in our system. So obviously we are working, but I am working in some different angle. Presently, I am working. But regarding the nano machine, actually Subrata is the best person to answer, I think.
Yeah. So since Subrata is not coming, let me say on behalf of him, I think he can tell much better, because. But the idea is that if you have the virus, definitely virus can attack human body when it comes into contact. It does not fly. It does not have wings. Remember, virus does not have wings. It need a contact to go from one body to another body. The physical contact is a must. And of course, because we live in a closed society, physical contact is very easily possible. So that which was not in even 30 years back. If you look at the map of India, if you look at the Bollywood movies, and you look at the background, you will find one in the background when a car moves far long field. Nobody is there. Nobody is living. And then look at the current movies. It's a terrible situation. So I think that physical contact is a must for the thing. And Pathik has raised a valid point. Pathik, you have turned left. Are you a leftist? You turn towards little right, maybe.
Oh no, actually,
in the middle. Yeah. So I just warned him that he is becoming leftist. So I don't know. You. Anyway, so the point I wanted to make is that he raised a valid point that how would our nanomachine will go from one nanomachine to another? We don't have to worry about it. If we can spray it our nanomachine much larger, which can enter inside a virus and bind with the nucleic acid, our job is done.
Sure. That itself is a big leap.
Yeah. Let me tell you one story though. I mean, it's a story my father told me. So one person was actually selling, a hawker was selling in the Indian crowded bus a medicine for for small bugs which lives in the bed, and then so that bug. So this guy bought in the bus this big packet with a lot of money, and then came, and then there it was a big packet, and then he opened it, and then inside, look inside, and then another packet, another packet, another packet, another packet, another packet, and then finally he found a small packet, and then when he opened it, there was a small note that catch the insect and put it inside its mouth. Death is certain. So it's a very small bug, that lives in your bed, and then it's very, very difficult to hold it and then eat it together. But we can make molecular machines. You do not need a power supply. That is the difference between normal machines or cars with the nano machines. So if you put it on the surface, it can walk. So you can make a walker. Many people have built walker, molecular machine walker, and then they can go and search and find. So if they come ever in contact with the virus, they will attack. So basically, molecular machine-based systems, Pathik was worrying that how it will go from one place to another. So that concern is virus also. Virus cannot sleep in the night because it has to go from one place to another. If you don't take it, a virus cannot go. It cannot fly. So similarly, nanomachines can walk. Nanomachines can walk. So just like you are spreading bleaching, or you are spreading, in the plane, they sprayed, this disinfecting liquid, and then you put it everywhere. You just spread it everywhere. So they will go and attack.
Amazing.
So maybe to 2300 AD, we will be thanking these people with the nanomachines who started the era of antiviral army, but not therapy. I think I'm surprised why the scientists of the world are still fighting for this vaccine, because vaccine works when you know that you in your body you will create immunity, and that immunity will be sufficient against a particular virus. So what your body will do, you use your body as a research laboratory whom you don't give any funding, but you give the virus bad part, you take it out, and your body synthesizes a very good enzyme which you have no idea, and then later you figure it out, and then that molecule actually goes, and then what it does, it takes the virus, attacks it from whole, covers it, and then makes a ball which is which goes out of your body with the discretion system. So that kind of system always produces an enzyme to find that this one is there. If just listen to this particular part very carefully. Suppose you design a fantastic enzyme that detects kind of virus which has already optimized to bind with any of your cell. It's a universal binder. Suppose it has perfected, and you create an enzyme. Your body, for the sake of immunity, creates an enzyme to go and attack it. There is a guarantee. There is no guarantee, or there is a possibility, strong possibility, that that antibody might attack some of your cells also. And autoimmunity or many other kind of diseases which are there. So don't remain in the dream land that that when the virus is perfecting, and it becomes nearly similar to the human human cell receptors, much better. Then there is a problem with the vaccine. No scientists have pointed it out, but I am predicting it today while discussing with you that very soon you will find that this vaccines have a limit.
So I think what you're saying is we'll soon enter the era of nanobots.
We soon would realize the limitations of creating this depending on the laboratory of the body, that is vaccine. So we send a little bit and then body produces. I think Pathik would like to get in. Pathik would like something?
I would like to point out very normal thing because people are thinking that our mask is not working. As this is a discussion on corona, I want to figure it out scientifically. So if we look at the virus particle size, it is only about 100 nanometer to 150, 120, something like this. So if you consider the porosity of our ordinary mask, we can easily conclude that virus can penetrate and go through easily. So our lungs will be infected. There is no doubt about this. But we are not considering the reality. We don't emit virus like something else. So when virus will come out from our body, it will be embedded inside the water or some water droplet will be there. So the ultimate size of the droplet is much higher than that 80 nanometer or 100 nanometer. Moreover, so it is covered with water and water will be absorbed over by the surface of this mask. So eventually what Subrata or Anirban was pointing out, why Japanese people are not affecting that much. So this is the reason. It may be an ordinary mask, but ultimately it is absorbed by the surface or inside this it will be absorbed. So that's why if you don't have the N95 mask, please use the ordinary mask. So that is also give you some at least protection, not some. It is useful at this point of time. So if we advise that mask size is bigger, and being a scientist, we should not misguide the people, because the ultimate result is you have to see the ultimate particle size. So I think the ordinary mask, even if it is much useful rather than breathing like we are doing right now.
Yeah.
So this is the thing actually.
Yeah. This is a very good and very important point. That virus size is small, it will enter. So you need a type of this is, I think, fooling people, because he is absolutely right. Virus never comes with flying. It does not mean. So it has to come on the top of a aerosol, a big large size, and it is 0.1 millimeter. So basically, if you have a mask, if you have a couple of layers of cloths, three layers of cloths, and then you connect it, the effective cross section will go down much smaller, because it's a micro size than effective. So it's a if the virus if the water droplet, which is aerosol, and it's try to enter, it will be absorbed. So one thing is having a mask. It is important. Why? In the initial days, we saw that that World Health Organization and several doctors were advising that if you wear a mask, you will not be protected. That was a wrong message to the people, because you could say to the people that, look, have rumal, 2 or 3 layers of rumal,
bandana or a bandana.
Yeah. And then you can safeguard yourself significantly. So it is important to tell the people the truth.
Whenever we are working in our organic chemistry lab or inorganic chemistry lab, basically we are dealing with very bad hazardous chemicals sometimes. Most of the time you can say. So if we don't have the mask, even we advise generally our junior or student, so use the handkerchief or the scarf and little weight it. If you put some water, that is the fantastic adsorbent of all kinds of chemical fumes and virus. So if you don't have any mask, please use this, and this is much more useful than the ordinary mask even.
Yeah. That is a very good idea. So Pathik gave me this idea that if you don't have any mask, please have mask. But if you don't have any mask, then you take a cloth, and then if you want to make it extremely effective, N95 or something like that, take the cloth layer, wet it in the water, and squeeze it out. Don't put a heavy water because you can't breathe then. Squeeze it up, and then you put it on your mouth. So what will happen? It will be wet. So if it comes, it will be absorbed, and then at the same time, it will give you. You can breathe very nicely. And wearing a gloves is also very important. Very important. What about you?
I think it was a fantastic conversation, starting from food romanticism to the intubations, the dual intubations, to looking at the structure of the virus, the stickiness of it, to looking at how it has perfected the receptor, the binding with the receptor of the human cells, to looking at the possibilities of nanobots, and finally some very practical examples of our homemade masks, using a kerchief or a bandana, wetting it and using it in some way. So I think it was fantastic conversation, and I think we'll have a lot more. We should assemble soon for another round of such dialogue.
Yeah.
Any closing comments from any of you?
Yeah. Stay safe, and don't panic. If you are inside the room, you are safe. If you are inside the room, you are safe. That's the only way currently at this moment.
Thank you. Pathik, any closing comments you want to make?
After this thing, I think I should say that in this time, you should do something that is creative in nature, or read something. I mean, enjoy the time. Don't be panicked, and enjoy this time as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. And to Subrata, we'll pass on his the gratitude that he participated with his insights. Thank you so much.